Mount Pisgah Hornets, original Free Will Baptist Church, Incorporated.
Us to guide us into all the truth. It doesn't matter what situation you may find yourself in. The Word has the answer for you. The Spirit knows how to get you out of whatever you may be in. The Bible says in James 1, but be ye doers of the word, not hearers only, deceiving your own selves. It is the application of the word to our lives that makes all the difference in the world. In order to receive the full benefit of what God is willing to do, we have to decide to consider all that God has said. Sometimes we look at the word as a buffet and we get what we want instead of what we really need. But we've got to resist drawing back from the word when it demands that we deal with an area in our lives that we would rather be off limits. In looking at increase, we have to be aware that the word speaks to so many different areas of life, and we'll walk in defeat until we do what the word has said. We want a heaven-rattling prayer life, but if we regard iniquity in our hearts, we're wasting our breath. If I choose to be stingy, I cannot expect God's blessings to flow in my life. The Bible says there is that scattereth and yet increases, and there's that withholdeth more than is meet, but it tendeth to poverty. The liberal soul shall be made fat, and he that watereth shall be watered also himself. If God said it, we should ask God to help us understand that he's given us the grace in order to do it. It's clear that increase is God's plan for our lives as we choose to follow God closely. Moses says at the end of verse 1 and verse 2, that the Lord thy God will set thee on high above all nations of the earth, and all these blessings shall come on thee and overtake thee if thou shalt hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God. We must not miss the point here, and that is there are conditions to what God is willing to do in our lives. When we've embraced God's certainty and heard God clearly and followed God closely, we can expect God to exalt us. We can expect the blessings that God has decreed to show up in our lives. And it doesn't matter who doesn't want them to come into your life. When you do what God said, you can expect to get what God will give. We can expect God to flow his blessings into our situation. What I love about what Moses says is how God will do it. He said that God is going to set us on high. The Bible says, humble yourselves therefore under the mighty hand of God, that he may exalt you in due time. When God raises us up, we don't have to worry about anybody bringing us down. Moses also says that the blessings of God that he has in store for us is not something you've got to go searching for. They will overtake your life. I'm here to encourage God's people. Just do what God says do, and the blessings will take care of themselves. That's exactly what Jesus meant when he said, seek ye first the kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you. I'm here to let you know that the blessings of the Lord are just like running rain. When I was a little boy, I remember being outside playing with my cousin. playing with my friends, and all of a sudden we would hear a noise, sometimes out in the woods. It was rain coming our way, and y'all know how we did. We start running towards some shelter because we didn't want to get wet. But more often than not, before we got to the shelter, the rain caught up with us and drenched us. I'm here to let somebody know when God blesses your life, when you meet the conditions for increase, his blessings will overtake you. You'll be minding your own business, and the blessings of the Lord will just show up at your door, run you down, take you over. I'm glad that when you choose to walk upright, when you choose to do it God's way, increase will flow in your life. When other folk are getting fired, they'll keep you on. When other folk have lost their house, they'll extend your note. When other folk don't know which way to turn, God will point a way out for you. When other folk have got busted and disgusted, God will show up in your life. I'm so glad that God will bless us over and over again. I'm here to encourage God's people. Now is the time to believe God. Now is the time to accept what God has said. I don't care what yesterday was like. I don't care what you're going through today. God has decreed this is increase. This is a time of increase, and we'll meet the conditions. God will allow our lives to be in such a position that we'll live in the overflow. What are you talking about, preacher? What is the overflow? Well, the overflow comes when we trust God to do what only God can do. We sit down, we count our coins and try to make ends meet. But when you're in the overflow, you say, God, this is your problem. God, you've got to solve it. God, you've got to work it out. God, you got to bring me through this. God, you got to keep me in my right mind. God, you got to keep my home together. God, you got to keep me working. God, you got to allow me to hold on and hold out when you're in the overflow.